Hi everyone and welcome to Books with Karen. If you're new here, a very warm welcome, and if you're not new, thanks so much for sticking around and coming back. So today's video I am going to be reviewing a book that I was sent called The Lich Before the Darkness by Timothy Stormcrow. You may recall if you watched my recent TBR video that this was a book I had on my TBR list for this month, and I have read it. So Timothy actually contacted me via email a few weeks ago, and he said he'd written a book called The Lich Before the Darkness and would I like to receive a copy to review on my channel. So when I read what it was about, it is a kind of fantasy novel about mythical creatures like vampires, werewolves, revenants, all good things like that. I jumped at the chance because you may all already know, if you've watched my videos, that I haven't read a lot of fantasy books yet. I've read a couple, but I love anything to do with vampires and things like that on TV and films. I was a big fan of Buffy and Angel. I was a big fan of True Blood. I loved the TV series Being Human. So anything to do with vampires and werewolves and fairies and that kind of thing, I'm there. I'm fascinated by them. So I was really happy for him to send me a copy of his book. This book is available on Amazon. You can get it as a paperback, or if you've got Kindle Unlimited, it is available on there so you can read it free. I do actually like having the paperback copy of the book, though I like to read a physical book. So I'll just quickly read you what is the blurb on the back of the book. And it says, the fates of Aisling, Eric and Maeve are intertwined in a world where the extraordinary is already commonplace. Aisling confronts daunting challenges in her new job as an investigative agent within the Department of Investigations and Discoveries. Eric, blessed with the unique ability to communicate with spirits, navigates a reality replete with ghostly presences. Learning his very existence will change the course of history. And Maeve, after being murdered, resurrected and then fired from her job, is forced to confront the demon she was sacrificed to and start a new career. So Aisling is human, and she has worked in a fish and chip shop for a few years, and she decides she'd like a change of career. So she gets a job with the Department of Investigations and Discoveries as kind of the Department of Investigations and Discoveries is kind of a supernatural investigative agency where they go out and investigate supernatural cases and try to solve them and help the people that are being influenced by them. So Aisling gets the job and she is working with a team. So the head of the head of the department, who is Wulfric, and he is a old vampire. And then there is Oswin and Roland, who are revenants. A revenant is somebody who has been resurrected from the dead. And she works with them, going out and investigating these cases and helping to solve them. Then you've got Maeve, who has been sacrificed to a demon, so she died, and she has been brought back from the dead. So she is a revenant. And she is working with a guy called Michael, but when she's resurrected from the dead, she is fired by the person she was working for, who is Philip, the Witchfinder General. And the Witchfinder General's job is to go out and hunt evil monsters and kill them, so people like vampires and werewolves and all that kind of thing. And Eric, when the book starts, is a guy who he can talk to dead people. He kind of when somebody dies, their spirit goes into him and they live in kind of a locked room inside his brain or something. You find out more about him later on. I don't want to give too much of the plot away because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's read it. But basically Eric is a lich, and the lich is someone who can manipulate the dead. So I'm thinking something like a necromancer, something like that. But Eric doesn't actually know that at the beginning. So maybe I just did spoil a little bit of it for you. So the characters I thought were really interesting. The only issue I had was the way the book is written. It could do with editing. There is some grammar and sentence structure that is a little bit clunky, and there were a few sentences that I had to read more than once to kind of try and make sense of what the author was trying to say. But I have had a brief conversation with Tim via email, who says that because this is his first book, I think he's writing alongside a job that he's already got, and he doesn't have any money to employ an actual editor, so he is spending time going through each chapter and editing himself, which I would imagine is quite a daunting job. So hopefully that is something that will get a bit better as he writes more. And it turns out this is the first one of a series of books with the same characters. I did feel like the characters needed a little bit more background. I wanted to know more about where Aisling and Maeve had come from. What had their lives been like, because Aisling was human. I'm not sure what Maeve was before she died and was resurrected. She does have some kind of hypnotic abilities, to put people in sort of some kind of trance where they obey what she says. So I'm not sure if that was something that she had before she died, or whether it's something that's developed afterwards. But I wanted to know more, and I specifically wanted to know more about Wulfric the vampire, because I have a thing about vampires, so I wanted to know more about him as well. But Tim did assure me that the more background is coming in the second book, so I'm really looking forward to reading that when it comes. So each of the characters of Aisling and Maeve and their teams are kind of investigating supernatural activity, and different demons and things like that. And Eric is kind of trying to get to grips with all these dead people that he's got around him. And you can tell in the book that it is all leading towards something. And the picture on the front of the group, which is a circle of stones, becomes a pivotal part of the story. I wasn't quite sure where that fitted in when I first looked at the book, but it is a pivotal part of the story that becomes apparent later on. And the book is also set in the UK, mainly in the UK, and I really like that fact. So a lot of the things that Tim talks about in the book are in places that I could identify with, places that I've maybe been to, or places that I've recognised. So you can tell by the story that it's all leading to some kind of catalyst, something that's actually going to change the world as the people who are living in it already know it. And this world is already inhabited by all of these mythical creatures who are not so mythical anymore. So, the vampires, the werewolves, centaurs, things like that, banshees, all of these things people actually know about. They're not mythical anymore. People know about them. So it's all leading to something else, which I won't give you the spoiler about. Dotted amongst the chapters about Aisling, Maeve and Eric are chapters that are entitled Elsewhere, and they're small chapters, so maybe only 2 or 3 pages, and they all introduce different types of creatures that are elsewhere in this world, and kind of a story about them. So not attached to the story of Aisling, Maeve and Eric, but they are in the world that Aisling, Maeve and Eric are living in. And the ones that I particularly like, so they do have well-known creatures in this book, but they also have lesser-known creatures. So they had things in these Elsewhere chapters. They had little stories about bogeymen, which was absolutely terrifying, actually. I don't think I would want to actually meet a bogeyman. There was a story about brownies, which I hadn't heard of. there was demons and exorcisms, and that the little story about the little boy who was possessed by a demon was actually really good. I found that a really interesting twist on that thing. And there was also a creature called a Myling, who was a little boy that haunts a certain place. So there are lesser known folklore characters in there, mythical creatures in there, that I found really interesting to read about. And they give you might think that it might take you away from the thread of the story of Aisling, Maeve and Eric, but it doesn't actually. It just kind of adds to the world that these people are living in. So I did find this book, I found it really interesting. Like I say, I found the characters interesting. I can't wait to hear more about their backgrounds, more backstory. I'm enjoying the kind of crux of the story. That's the bit that's going to change everything, which is obviously going to be more about in the second book. Tim tells me via email that it'll probably be ready by the end of the year, so I am looking forward to that. This is a real page turner. It's quite a short book. I mean, this has 328 pages in it, but the writing is quite big, and I believe on the Kindle version it's only like something like 170 pages, and Tim does say that he's making the book bigger, the second one, which is obviously why he can put the backstory and all that into it. But I did find this a definite page turner, very interesting, and I do look forward to reading the next one. So I'd like to thank Tim for sending me the book, Timothy Stormcrow, The Lich Before the Darkness. I will put the link to the Amazon page in the description box below and in the pinned comment in the top, so if you want to go across and have a look at it, you can certainly do that, especially if you've got Kindle Unlimited. You can download it for free. So thanks, Tim, for sending me that. Highly enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoyed that review. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.